Welcome to AndrewBoughton.com. Today I'm discussing movement in a negotiation. I want to start by dispelling a couple of myths because I hear a lot of consultants giving the following advice to people where they'll say, listen, movement is a sign of weakness, or he who moves first loses. That's nonsense. That's absolute nonsense. Now, I will agree if your moves are unplanned and they're a simple reaction to what's happening in the negotiation, then, that can be very damaging to your position, and it can reveal quite a bit of weakness. However, movement, if done properly, is a crucial element in any style of negotiation, because let's face it, without any movement, all you have is deadlock. So it's absolutely critical to understand how to move, when to move, how much to move, etc. If done correctly and effectively, movement allows you to tap into that law of reciprocity, and it increases the probability that the other side will move towards you. It puts you in charge of the negotiation because you are now dictating the action, and they will have to react to what you're doing instead of vice versa, where you're following them and reacting to what they're doing. It allows you to anchor the discussion again around your position, allowing you to effectively manage their expectations and aspirations about what they hope to achieve in that negotiation. If done correctly, your movement will actually build and establish your credibility as a negotiator. But if done poorly, it can absolutely undermine your credibility and destroy some of the trust that you may have worked very hard to establish. Now, one of the things that your movement will also allow you to do is to reject proposals that are put on the table without having to say no. You simply put your proposal on the table. Okay, so remember, without movement, there's always deadlock. So let's talk about how to go about moving. Now, first, if there's one thing to take away when it comes to movement is plan, plan, and plan. Plan all your moves in advance before you sit down at the negotiating table. Plan your moves. Don't just plan your first move and say to yourself, well, I'll just see what happens, how they react to my first move, and then I'll plan my next move. No, that's a bad strategy. In fact, that's who you want sitting at the other side, is somebody who's going to react and be influenced by what you do. That's where the anchoring and managing their expectations all comes into play. So you want to plan all your moves so you're not reacting. Each move will incrementally decrease, so every single move gets smaller and smaller and smaller. For instance, 10, then I move to 6, then I move to 4, then I move to 3. This is going to effectively signal to the other party that I'm drying up, that I am reaching my endpoint. Now, if all my moves are equidistant, 2, 4, 6, 8, there's no signal to the other party. It's telling them, hey, hang on, because I got a lot more to come here. If I've got a series of little moves and then a great big move, well, that may be signaling to the other party that I'm getting desperate. Okay, so ever decreasing size. Each increment is smaller and smaller. Now, as your moves are getting smaller, your reluctance is increasing, is getting bigger. Each move hurts a little more, again, sending the appropriate signal. Now, when you're involved in a distributive negotiation, which is on that wheel, is hard bargaining, auctions, and a little bit of trading concessions, you can afford to have many moves because it's a one-off transaction. You're not worried about trust, and it's all about price. So you can have lots of moves. When you move over to the other side of the wheel and you're talking about win-win scenarios or high dependency negotiations, you start to lose credibility very quickly if you've got a large number of moves on each variable. Your moves are going to come from all the different variables because the deals are more complex in collaborative negotiations. So it's going to come from how you link the different proposals together. So on each term, you may only have 1 or 2 moves. Okay? Very important to remember that. Now, let's talk very quickly about your initial moves because those set the scene for everything. Remember, your biggest move comes first. because ever decreasing. So do not state your opening position and then dig in and spend 20 minutes justifying where you got that figure, why it's the right proposal, how you got your figure. All that does is cause the other side to dig in around their opening position, and you increase the probability of deadlock. So that first move, that comes maybe a little bit faster, because remember, you're going to slow down and your reluctance is going to increase as your moves get smaller and smaller. Okay, if you're doing it properly, you're going to start to dry up where you perceive their breakpoint to be. Now we'll talk about that in another post, how to perceive their breakpoint. So remember, first move is the biggest, and they each get smaller, your reluctance increases, and don't dig in on your opening position. So quick recap: plan your moves, ever decreasing size, increasing reluctance with each move, lots of moves for hard bargaining situations, not so many moves, not as much room to move in collaboration situations. Now, so next I want to talk about, in the next post, I'm going to talk about anything you say can and will be used against you. Thank you for listening. This is Andrew Boughton for AndrewBoughton.com, and I will see you soon.